Hi, I'm John, and today I'm going to be talking about saving money with Linux and how much does it save. This is something I don't hear very much about, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people talk about. How much does Linux save you by switching from Windows to Linux or Mac to Linux? Uh, and I know, of course, there's limitations. There's some things that you've got to have running Windows, that type of thing. I get it. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about regular people who could do everything on Linux. And that's probably 95% of you out there. Um, Other than something that is work related or something specialized. I went to my dentist's office a couple weeks ago, and on their screen up there, I noticed it's running Windows. And of course, the Windows applications have to do with x-rays and things like that and hooking all that stuff up. I get it. Had somebody wrote it for Linux at the beginning, it would have been Linux. But in this case, it was Windows. So I know there's things like that out there. So there's some ways you can't do anything about. But for the average guy, the average user like me, even though I run a small business, I use a lot of regular programs. I don't use anything too specialized. And so how much does it save? So we got to pull out the old calculator. And I'm just going to go based on, not on statistics across an industry. I'm just going to talk about me and what I think I save every year by when I made the switch from Windows to Linux. And you'll see some things in here, you'll go, well, why was he doing that to start with? He could have done it for free. I get that. But your mind's not opened up and you're not seeing all the possibilities until you make a switch. So for me, I used to have to, I thought I had to use Microsoft Office all the time. I didn't know what LibreOffice was about, and I didn't make the switch because I thought I had compatibility issues. So every year I would spend on a subscription $120 roughly on a subscription to Microsoft Office. And like I said, don't castigate me for that. I didn't know. I had been in the matrix so long with Windows that I didn't know. Okay, then there's another program that I used regularly, which was a screenshot program that I still think is really cool to this day. That was really good for Windows. It was called Snagit, and I usually, bought a subscription to it every year. Once again, subscribing to things, not owning them. So you're going to see all the dumb things I did. And I could have done something else too. So if you're using Windows right now, there's some free things you could do, even if you don't want to get rid of Windows. But I'd say do yourself a favor and get Linux. Okay. Now, I was also using Camtasia for videos. I was doing videos, and I really wasn't using OBS so much, and I was tinkering around with other things. Camtasia, I'm going to tell you that years ago I bought the full license, and so I did a yearly upgrade typically, and that would be about $99. And then there was some other things as well. Other pieces of software, miscellaneous small things. I'm going to tell you that those probably ran somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 a year. And then there was, things like if there was like a technical issue or something like that, I'm going to tell you that I had to do something with special patches and $50. I'm just being real off the cuff. There was a lot of cost. Let's think about anything else. If you can think about anything else, leave it in the comments section. I'll keep going. There was also a lot of soft costs too. I'm going to try to stay off of those for a second. Let's just talk about hardware. You do have to have more or less the latest and greatest hardware. So that averages out for me when I bought a new system, a new desktop, for the time that I'll use it, that probably equates to about $150 a year. And that doesn't include some hardware that I may need to buy to do a little upgrade. I'll say 50. I'm just talking about hard costs now. Any other subscriptions, things like that. There would also be, paint programs or Photoshop type programs, that type of thing. I wasn't familiar with GIMP. I'll give it $25. So let's just come up with something that we can work with. And this is kind of what I thought it would be, about $619 a year that I was probably spending in software and hardware. And this doesn't include the soft costs. So let's talk about the soft costs. What are they? They're things that have nothing to do with the hardware. Say the the absolute frustration of having computer problems. How many hours a year did that waste where I had Windows problems and I had to fix programs so they worked properly again? How much do you think that might be? I don't know. Let's try to figure it out. It's morning, and I don't talk well in the morning. So what would it be? How many hours a year would I spend when either the operating system didn't work right or the software that I used in that operating system didn't work right? How many hours? Or the upgrades? That would be my time, frustration, and all that. I'm gonna lowball this. I'm gonna say it was about 10 hours a year. And a lot of people say, what's 10 hours a year, John? That's no big deal. You could have stayed with Windows. No, it is a big deal because the level of frustration that you feel with it and the fact that you don't know if it's really fixed, and the next iteration of software that you put on top of that operating system may not work, and that's one of the problems. Let's put a number to it. I'll just say my time, even though I think it's worth more than this, I'll say $50 an hour. So 50 times 10 is 500. And I think you come up between soft costs and trying to fix things, backing up things, making sure that you do things their way, and then having to endure. Let's put this one in here as a cost. Having to endure their ads and nag screens all the time. There's a cost to nag. There's a cost to being nagged. So let's say, just for distraction purposes, it distracts you from what you're trying to do. And in doing so, you waste time. It's a soft cost. I'm going to give it $200. So this is a number that I think in real costs and soft costs, which I think divvy up about 50-50, ends up being, for me, about $1,319 per year. Your results may vary. It could be totally different for you. So by switching to Linux, I didn't have all these hardware costs. I didn't have any of that. Now, did I give a little bit to the operating system, or do I give to software? Yeah, but maybe I'll give $40 a year just as a donation, keep them going. I'm just a small guy. They're a lot of times backed up by bigger companies, but I gave something because I wanted to keep moving forward in the project. So let's say I gave $60 in a year to Linux. Let's take that off as a donation and a cost. And so you're at $12.59. Okay, there you go. So in reality, I think in a realistic sense, I save every year about $1,259 from making the switch from Windows to Linux. You tell me what you think down in the comments. Tell me what you think you save per year. Maybe it's more. Maybe you're one of these people that buys a laptop every year, or something, the latest and greatest, just so it'll run Windows or something like that. And I haven't even talked about that I use multiple computers using the same thing. And I haven't even talked about actually having to license Microsoft, the OS by itself. And sometimes you have to outright buy that. So I haven't even talked about that. So what does it all mean? I used to like what one boss of mine said. I had a customer that said, "Oh, so what? By buying your product, I'm saving $600 a year." And my boss said, "Well, just tell him this next time." I was just a young salesman, and he goes, "Tell the guy, give me $600 out of your wallet. Let's go take it. We're going to take it out into the middle of the street. We're going to pour gas on it and light it on fire. Are you going to let that happen?" And the guy goes, "Well, no, I'm not going to let that happen." Well, then why would you waste it, in your expenses every year? Why would you do that? $600 is $600. I don't care how much money you have. It's money, and it's real, and it makes a difference. It doesn't matter. Some of the most wealthy people I've known are not wasteful, and they don't do things like this. So if you're using Windows, understand that you can save a whole bunch of money, frustration, hardware and software cost, and not have to come back to that ever again. So by just talking about this generally, I hope that I convince some of you who are real practical in money matters. Think about what you could do with that kind of money. And I know some of it's a soft cost, but your time is worth something, and you could get other things done. Gee whiz, maybe you could do something else more productive with the family. Think about the frustration that you don't bring into your personal life because your operating system and software is not working right. That used to happen to me, where it's like, oh, I have to figure this out, and I'd spend time away from family, which, I probably shouldn't have done, but I had to get it fixed. And I just don't have those problems anymore. So that's what I think savings can do for you in Linux. It does make a difference. It is better. And not only that, once you save all this money, you're having an operating system that is working. I left this computer on for days while it was doing some backup. For days, no problems, no issues, no wondering in the back of my mind, well, is it going to fault out or spontaneously reboot? None of that was going to happen, and it didn't. So, it gives you a peace of mind and not having to worry about, is this really going to work or not? And that's one of the problems that you get with Windows, and to some degree Mac, probably to a lesser degree because they're a little bit tighter on their controls. But Windows wide open for anybody, and any software company can write for it, but that doesn't mean it's going to work right. So the soft costs are real too, but they have a real world effect, which may not actually, hit your wallet. May not be that way, but it will in another way. But this is a number I put on it. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good that I made the switch, and I save money, I save frustration, and I'm just better off my computing experience in Linux. Linux Mint is what I use, and it's so much better than Windows. And the nagging and all that stuff, endlessly tracking you, that type of thing. All that stuff. You don't need that, and you'll save money. So tell me what you think. Tell me how much you save per year. It's probably very different. Maybe it's not as much as this. Maybe it's more. It depends on how you're using it. So I'm just talking about a Linux desktop, you know. And I'll say this, that those of you who go, well, I'd never want to use Linux or anything like that, you know, in your everyday life, you have contact with it, whether it's a restaurant kiosk board or it's running a server somewhere, you have contact with it. Why not put it on your desktop PC? And you'll find a better experience, and you're going to be saving. So anyway, that's it for today. We'll talk to you again soon. Take it easy. Bye-bye.